It was August 24th, 1867, a warm summer evening in Alton, Hampshire, and Thomas Gates was wandering through the hop garden, giving the tall plants one final check before the sun dipped down completely. The 29-year-old war vet had made it through the charge of the Light Brigade in Crimea, had stared death in the face more than once, but nothing could have prepped him for what he spotted among those wooden hop poles. Something pale flashed between two stakes. At first he figured it was just a doll somebody dropped. Then he saw the hair, the eyes, those tiny, perfect little kid features. 8-year-old Fanny Adams had been missing for hours. Her mom and the neighbors were out combing the fields, shouting her name into the dusk, hoping she was just messing about or maybe hurt. Instead, they stumbled on something that would scar England for generations. The head was only the start. As night rolled in and lanterns got lit, the searchers kept finding more bits scattered all over the garden. An arm here, a leg there, insides tossed around like rubbish. The little girl hadn't just been killed. She'd been taken apart piece by piece, cold and methodical. Over in town, a 29-year-old solicitor's clerk named Frederick Baker was still at his desk, working late like nothing was wrong. His trousers were soaked. His shirt cuffs had blood spots. And in his diary that afternoon, he'd scribbled exactly 9 words. Killed a young girl. It was fine and hot. Alton was this sleepy little market town in Hampshire, England. Back in 1867, the place pretty much lived on hops. Those climbing plants were everywhere, feeding the breweries that kept everyone comfortable. Hop gardens ringed the whole town, and come harvest time, the entire community would turn out to pick them. The town sat close to the riverway, which sometimes flooded the low bits when the rain came hard. One of those soggy patches was called Flood Meadow, and right beside it sat a big hop garden. For the kids on Tanhouse Lane, that whole area was their playground. Fanny Adams came into the world on April 30th, 1859. She lived with her parents, George and Harriet, and her brothers and sisters in a small house on Tanhouse Lane, up on the north side of town. Her grandparents were literally next door. Tight family, tight neighborhood. Everybody knew everybody. People who knew Fanny said she was tall for her age, bright, full of life, always smiling, the kind of kid other children gravitated to. Her best mate was Minnie Warner, same age, lived right next door. The two of them were glued together. In 1867, serious crime just didn't happen in Alton. The town had gone the whole century without anything truly violent. Parents let their kids run wild outside, no worries. The idea that something awful could happen felt ridiculous. That feeling of safety was about to get smashed to pieces. Frederick Baker was 29 that summer. He'd moved to Alton from Guildford about a year earlier to work as a clerk for a local solicitor, Mr. Clemens. Decent job, and Baker played the part. Proper frock coat, light trousers, tall hat, the whole respectable gentleman look. His office sat on the high street, straight across from the Swan Hotel, and he was in there drinking pretty regularly. To his boss and everyone else in town, he was just a regular, boring clerk doing his paperwork. But something was seriously off inside Frederick Baker's head, and on August 24th, 1867, whatever darkness he carried decided to come out and play. It was one of those perfect summer days, sun blazing, hot, the kind that makes kids itch to get outside. Around noon, Fanny asked her mom Harriet if she could go play in Flood Meadow with her little sister Lizzie and her best friend Minnie. Harriet was in the middle of chores and happy to get the girls out from under her feet for a bit. The meadow was practically on their doorstep. Nothing bad had ever happened there. So off the three of them went, giggling and skipping toward the meadow and the hop garden next to it, just enjoying the afternoon. Then they ran into Frederick Baker. He was strolling near the hop garden when he came over to the girls. They knew his face from church, so they weren't scared. He seemed friendly enough, dug into his pocket, pulled out some coins, gave Minnie and Lizzie 3 halfpennies each and 1 to Fanny, told them to go buy sweets. The girls thought that was brilliant. He even picked them blackberries and watched them tearing up and down the hollow, the little lane nearby, playing and stuffing their faces with berries. For about an hour, everything looked completely innocent. Just a nice man keeping some local kids entertained on a summer day. But then Lizzie and Minnie got tired and headed home. That's when Baker made his move. He went up to Fanny and asked her to walk with him to the next village, Selborne. Fanny said no. She wanted to go home too. Baker wasn't taking no for an answer. He scooped the 8-year-old up and carried her into the hop garden. Lizzie and Minnie ran back to Tanhouse Lane and told Minnie's mom, Martha Warner, what they'd seen. Martha either didn't believe them or didn't grasp how bad it was. She shooed them off to keep playing. The girls forgot about it, never realizing their friend was in mortal danger. The afternoon dragged on. At 5 o'clock, the girls went in for tea. That's when a neighbor, Mrs. Gardner, noticed Fanny still wasn't around. She asked Lizzie and Minnie where she was. The kids told her everything, how the man gave them money and then carried Fanny off. Mrs. Gardner panicked and ran straight to Harriet Adams. The two women dashed out looking for her. They didn't have to go far. Just past the gate between the hop garden and Flood Meadow, they found Frederick Baker. Mrs. Gardner went right up to him. "What have you done with the child?" Baker was cool as anything. Said he often gave kids money for sweets. No harm in it. Mrs. Gardner told him she ought to turn him over to the police. Baker just shrugged. "Do what you like." He had the advantage. Respectable clerk. No visible blood. Calm as you please. The women went home doubtful, figuring Fanny was probably still playing somewhere. They were worried, but not terrified yet. They should have been. By 7 o'clock, Fanny still wasn't home. Now Harriet was properly scared. She rounded up neighbors and they started a proper search. As the sun dropped, they checked the hollow first. Nothing. Then they moved into the hop garden. Thomas Gates was still working late among the plants when he saw it. The little girl's head wedged between two hop poles, one ear sliced off, huge gashes from her mouth clear across her temple. He knew instantly it was murder. He shouted and everyone came running. What they found next was beyond nightmare. Fanny hadn't just been killed, she'd been taken to pieces, deliberately, completely. Head, arms, legs all separated. 3 deep slashes on the left side of her chest. Left arm cut off at the elbow. Left leg almost off at the hip. Left foot hacked off at the ankle. Right leg completely ripped away. Everything inside her chest and belly taken out and flung around. Heart cut out. Liver sliced 5 times. Both eyes gouged out and chucked into the river. Bits of her were everywhere. Her clothes shredded and scattered. The only thing still in her tiny hand, those 2 halfpennies Baker had given her. Someone ran to get Harriet. She collapsed before she even reached her husband George, who was off playing cricket. When George heard, he grabbed his loaded shotgun and started for the fields to find whoever did it. Neighbors had to wrestle him down and sit with him all night so he didn't do something irreversible. Next day, hundreds poured into the hop garden looking for whatever was left. They found an arm, a foot, intestines the following morning. 1 foot still had its shoe on. They never found her breastbone. Police gathered everything and took it to a doctor's surgery on Amory Street. Someone there had the grim job of stitching poor Fanny back together for the post-mortem. Someone else handed over a stone with flesh and hair stuck to it, maybe the murder weapon. That same evening, Superintendent William Cheney showed up. Someone pointed him to the Leather Bottle pub where the landlord gave him a bundle marked portions of a child. Cheney got his men searching again. Then someone mentioned Frederick Baker had been seen with the girls. Cheney marched to the solicitor's office on High Street. Got there at 9, found Baker still at his desk, working late. Told him he was under suspicion for murder. Baker said he was innocent, but he was the only suspect, so Cheney arrested him. Outside, a mob had already formed. Word travels fast when a child's butchered. Police had to sneak Baker out the back or the crowd would have torn him apart. At the station, they searched him, 2 small knives. No obvious blood. But his shirt cuffs were spotted and his trousers soaked like he'd tried washing them in the river. When they asked about the blood, he said, weirdly calm, "Well, I don't see a scratch or cut on my hands to account for the blood." Wasn't denying it was there, just giving an excuse. Throughout questioning, he stayed ice cold. No fear, no guilt, nothing. Creeped the officers out. Cheney went back to the office and found Baker's diary on the desk. Turned to August 24th, 1867. 9 words. Killed a young girl. It was fine and hot.